Today on Watch with Poppy, we're going to be talking about the latest episode of The Vampire Diaries. So I must admit that at the beginning of this episode, when you see them all kind of getting off these boats and they're on an island, I saw Ian Somerhalder and it just made me flash back to Lost. But alas, I was wrong. There was no Jack, there was no Sawyer, no Kate. It was just the gang, basically on this island, trying to find the cure. Meanwhile, of course, Shane is trying to release Silas. So in this episode, we really kind of get the backstory for why he wants to release Silas, and really even find out how he even learned how to do that. So it turns out that on the island, there's this cave, and as local legend has it, if you bleed into the cave, then supposedly you'll be able to kind of hear the voices of loved ones that you've lost. And we find out that Shane lost his wife and his son, like in an accident. So he showed up here on the island at the cave, he bled into the cave, and he hears the voice of his wife. So he gets really excited, and so he's got these ropes with him, and he rappels down into the cave, and he ends up falling to the floor, and he hurts himself and he starts to bleed quite a lot. So then his wife really shows up because there's lots of blood. And she's the one who tells him about Silas and tells him how to release Silas. And I guess the goal for him is that if he does that, he really thinks he's going to be able to see his wife and his son again. So he's really kind of like a man on a mission, and he's kind of obsessed with this and really willing to do anything to get that, which we've kind of have seen so far. Now, before we talk more about what happened on the island, let's flash back to Mystic Falls, where we finally got to see Caroline and Tyler again this week. So Klaus again is trapped in the house. He's there for a couple of more days. And so Tyler comes over to the house to kind of gloat. And at one point, Caroline shows up. And to make a long story short, she starts to argue with Klaus. And she gets too close to him, he grabs her, and he bites her. Now, at first, I completely forgot about the fact that Klaus was a hybrid, and I was like, why is she freaking out about the fact that he bit her? And then I realized, hello, Poppy, hybrid, which means that she's been bitten by a werewolf, and she's gonna die unless he gives her his blood. But at this point, Klaus really kind of wants to punish Tyler for being too mouthy, and so he's decided he's just gonna let Caroline die. So Tyler takes Caroline away, and, she's at home, she's dying, until finally, she's kind of at the end of her rope. She's at the point where she's really gonna die. And he brings her back to the house and just lays her body, out in front of Klaus. And tells him, if you're gonna kill her, then you are going to watch her die. And he leaves her there. And then the two of them have this really kind of great conversation. I must admit, I know there's been lots of kind of lead up to the whole Caroline and Klaus, obviously there's something going on there. Is something gonna happen? But at the same time, there's a part of you that thinks, how could Caroline ever really kind of be interested in this guy? Because he's done so many kind of awful things to her and to the people that she loves. But this conversation, I think, really kind of was a start of something between Caroline and Klaus, for real. So she's laying there, right, and she's dying. And she starts to do the whole Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Father, I see good in you, that type of thing. So she tells him, I do see good in you, I see these glimpses, and when I see that, I want so badly to be able to kind of forget about all of the bad things that you've done. And so Klaus comes really close to her and he's sitting down in front of her and he's just but you can't, right? You can't forget about all of the things I've done. You can't get past that. And then comes the real kicker part, the best part of the scene. Caroline says to him, I know you love me. And if you love me, and if you can love, and if you can experience that kind of emotion, then that means that you can be saved. The look on his face when she said that to him was who's ever said that to him? Who's ever really had that kind of confidence in him that he could kind of come back from the brink? And you almost get that as she says it, he wants to really, really believe in himself. You kind of have to imagine that Klaus's whole being bad thing has really kind of taken over his life. And that even if there's a glimmer of hope in him that wants to be good, he's done all of these horrible things that it's almost he can't even pull himself back from the edge. So to have her kind of say that, this person that he's in love with, I think it meant a lot, and it made him want to believe that. So in the end, he does heal her, which you knew he was going to do anyway, really. I mean, he loves her. And yeah, I think that this is kind of a pivotal change for him, so it'll be interesting to see. I'm not really sure how they're going to do the whole Caroline and Klaus thing, especially because the originals are getting their own series. So it's is she leaving? Is she, is she staying on the Vampire Diaries? I'm just not really sure about that. Okay, so back to the island. Basically, in the end, we really get that Shane has got his own kind of like motives, and he's completely untrustworthy, right? Damon knows this though, and Damon hasn't really trusted him from the beginning at all. And at one point, Damon actually tries to like, you know, be forceful with him and tries to get him to tell him where the cure is at. But Shane has kind of built in his own little safety net in that he tells them like, look, my wife was a witch, and she knew expression, and that's what killed her, because she tried to bring back our son and she ended up killing herself. So Bonnie realizes like, wait a minute, you taught me this magic that could kill me. And Shane is pretty much like, yeah, I did, but I'm here, so I'll be able to pull you back. So they kind of really need him because of Bonnie, because Bonnie could completely lose it at any moment, and that would be a problem. In the end, Shane escapes. He takes Jeremy with him. He steals the headstone. He steals Bonnie, and he's off to go wake Silas and find the cure, leaving everybody else kind of like in the dust. And so they're trying to regroup and trying to figure out how they're going to find their friends. Okay, so let's talk about the whole Stefan and Damon and Elena business in this episode, because it was a lot. I feel like in this episode it was so obvious, more so than in any other episode before this, that Elena is under the sire bond. I mean, like, just the way she's acting and even the progression of her relationship with Damon. And she was so quick to tell him that she loved him, and more that's just starting to feel really fakey and false to me. Now in this episode, she spends a lot of time really kind of reassuring him like, look, when I get the cure, I'm still going to be in love with you, don't worry. Because we get that he is worried. You know, the closer they get to finding the cure, the more he realizes that's going to answer this, like, big question of whether or not Elena's feelings are true or whether or not they're false. And I really think, you know, him finding out that it's just the sire bond would just really kind of have a devastating effect on him. The other thing, though, is that you start to see Damon be Damon. And Damon wants what he wants and wants it how he wants it. So, like, when he tells Elena, look, I don't want you to take the cure, because if you take the cure, you're going to be human, and then I'll still be a vampire, and then I'm just going to watch you get old and die, and I don't want to do that. And so Elena says, well, take it with me. Take the cure with me, and we'll grow old together, and it'll be wonderful. And he tells her no. Like, he tells her he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to be human. And you get that he wouldn't even do that for her, which is, I think, kind of a devastating blow to her. Especially when we remember that that's something that Stefan wants to do. You know, that was something that Stefan told Rebecca, like, look, I want to take the cure so that I can grow old with Elena, we can have kids together and do all that kind of normal stuff. So I think especially when Elena remembers that about Stefan, there's this whole comparison that starts to happen as she starts to see Damon and she starts to see Stefan, and you get that she's kind of confused. Also, at one point, Damon almost kills Shane, and Elena has to stop him, and she's really angry, and she's like, look, you know we need him because of Bonnie. And Damon is honest again and says, I don't care about Bonnie. Like, I don't care. And again, I just think it's Elena opening her eyes to actually start to see Damon. And I think Damon is just really being Damon, but if Elena is really under the kind of pull of the sire bond, then it's like, I don't know, that kind of love is blind thing times 10. She doesn't see any of his faults. She just sees Damon, who she loves, because she's under the sire bond. So I guess we're going to be finding that out probably in the next couple of episodes. Another kind of big surprise at the end is, you know, while the others regroup, Damon's off kind of sulking by himself in the woods, and he gets jumped by this kind of shadowy figure. And in the end, it turns out to be another hunter, and not just like another random hunter, he is one of the 5, one of the original hunters. So I'm assuming that he's there on the island to maybe try to protect the cure. I'm not really sure why he's there, but I'm sure we'll be finding out. Guys, I thought this was a really good episode, and I'm super excited to see what's going to happen. I really am at a loss to find out what's going to happen when Klaus gets loose, and then also what happens when they finally find the cure. Is Silas going to get loose? Is there going to be a cure, or is there not going to be a cure? I'm just going to be kind of amazed to see what happens. That's it for me today, you guys. I will see you again soon. Bye.